Welcome back to Muggles and Mocha, everybody. Today we're discussing Chapter 6 of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. If you're new here, first of all, welcome. This is a Harry Potter book club attached to my editing website, MadisonKdarby.com, where I offer a number of book editing services for people wanting to become authors. We meet every week, nerd out about Harry Potter. I also write an article each week. Check that out. This week it is about the Hogwarts Express and just really diving into what that brings to the series and the different themes that comes from its involvement in the Harry Potter books. So I have that in the description of this video below. You can click on it there. So yeah, we talk about Harry Potter, which is awesome. It's my favorite part of the week. And we also drink coffee. And this week, this is my mug. It says, on a scale of 1 to 10, how obsessed am I with Harry Potter? Platform 9 3/4. Yeah, because that is where we're going today. Harry's getting on the train. He's going to start his journey to Hogwarts. And this chapter is all about meetings. We meet so many new people, and Harry has a lot of new experiences, and I'm just really excited to dive into that with you guys. Okay, now we can get started. Oh, before we jump in, I did want to mention something really cool that's going on in Wizarding World, and a couple of you sent me videos about it. It's super, super cool. Around the time that COVID-19 started, they released on Wizarding World a Harry Potter at home, and I didn't really know what all that was going to include. It had a lot of cool craft ideas, quizzes, tips for if you're a first-time reader, so it's like a lot of stuff to do with your kids. But now they have different guest readers come and read the first Harry Potter book, which, what timing? We're doing that. So if you haven't gotten a chance, like if you're just tuning into these videos because you've already read the books and you just want to talk about Harry Potter, but you haven't actually started reading them again, go listen to Daniel Radcliffe, who is the first reader for this past week. He was on there. So I don't know who all they're going to bring on, but it's super awesome. And I really hope, it'd be so cool if J.K. Rowling was one of the guests. I feel like that's fitting. So yeah, check that out on Wizarding World's website. Last week, we talked about wands, a lot of wand lore, and if you didn't get to tune into that, please do, because I think a lot of that information is going to come into the discussions we have in future videos, especially when it comes to the different people's wand woods and connecting that to some of their actions throughout the book. Even in this video, I've already thought of some things that probably will come up, so yeah, check that out. And you know what? I am gonna bring my wand out. I've decided that that's a good idea. The purpose it will serve is that it's going to be my rant stick. So when I pick this thing up, you know I'm about to start diving into some things that are on my heart or something I'm going to go on a crazy impassioned speech about. So rant stick, aka Madison's wand, will be in these videos. Okay, so like I said, we're going to be talking about Chapter 6. Yes, I dog ear my books. I know that's bad. There was a rule about that in my library class when I was younger, but it's my book, okay? So it is called The Journey from Platform 9 3/4. We left Harry after his super big day in Diagon Alley, his birthday. He's gotten all his stuff and he is ready to go to Hogwarts. Harry is getting ready to go to Platform 9 3/4, and which is at King's Cross Station in London. In real life, they actually do have I think it's like a trolley sticking out of the barrier between platforms 9 and 10, which is so cool, and I hope I can see that someday. But J.K. Rowling talks about King's Cross Station on the Wizarding World website and her decisions for why she chose to have Harry travel from there. And it's kind of a neat story. Her parents actually met on a train in Scotland that came out of King's Cross, and so that place was just very special to her when it comes to stories beginning. And she didn't mention this, but I think it's really fitting to have Harry leave by train to go to Hogwarts when the majority of Harry Potter was planned on a train. I believe that she came up with the idea for the Harry Potter series when she was on a train, wrote down lots of notes on a napkin. So just how fitting is it that the way Harry travels to this new wizarding world is through the way the wizarding world was brought to us. Harry, after having a very uncomfortable conversation with Uncle Vernon, the whole Dursley family has been ignoring him, which seems like a step up really, but you know, can get kind of boring. They have a conversation about platform 9 3/4, which Uncle Vernon knows is not real, and so he agrees to take Harry just to bask in his humiliation, I guess. So they go to the station, and lo and behold, there is no 9 3/4, and they leave Harry there, and it says they drive away laughing at him, which mean, but also Dudley's about to go get a tail taken off, so I understand the negative feelings. But yeah, poor Harry, he can't get onto the platform, and then he sees them, the Weasley family. And I'm always a sucker for looking back on moments that might not seem as important and realizing their significance after the fact. Okay, we're picking up the wand for this, okay? This is such a huge moment because Harry, even though he is with the Dursleys, he's never had a real family. Like, he missed out on those family experiences. And the Weasleys are the family that he never had. I'm just gonna hold this close. It really, they just, one of my favorite lines in the book, which we'll get to it later, but is when Harry refers to Mrs. Weasley as like what he imagined a mother would be like, as being hugged by a mother. I can't remember exactly where that is at the moment, but it's just such a special relationship with this family, and I'm so glad that J.K. Rowling introduced them into the series so that Harry could have that. You know, even though he went through life without his parents, he does get to experience, in a way, being a part of a family through the Weasleys. Wow, so sweet. And don't get me wrong, okay, what I'm about to say. I love Ginny. I do. I really love her, especially in the books. We'll get into a rant about Ginny in the movies, but I love her in the books. But part of me is also just happy that Harry got to marry into this family and be a part of it forever. You know, Ginny's great too. But the Weasleys, I mean, come on. He gets to have Ron as a brother-in-law, and then his in-laws are Arthur and Molly, and he just gets to be a part of that. Yeah, love the Weasleys. I'm excited to dive into different situations that Harry goes through with them and just see how his relationships grow there. Okay, so moving on. Harry runs the platform barrier between 9 and 10 and enters platform 9 3/4, which, wow. Whenever I imagine this scene, I just think of a lot of color and sound, like Harry seeing other wizards getting ready to go to Hogwarts, a lot of animals. There's already like fantastic things happening around him, and then you have this big scarlet train that's going to take him to Hogwarts, and it's just so exciting. I want to take this moment to say we're not going to go into the Hogwarts Express very much in this video because I wrote an article all about it. You should check it out. It kind of goes into the history of how wizards chose to use the Hogwarts Express, how it got there, and then the significance that it has throughout the books for Harry. So yeah, check that out. And as Harry moves forward, getting on the train, besides the leaky cauldron scene, which I do kind of count that, but this, I feel like, is the first time that he really has to interact with people who are in awe of him because of what he's gone through, and having to deal with that attention from his peers and from people that you know, he has to actually have conversations with about something that he can't remember. And so Fred and George are the first people who notice his scar. They go back and report it to the rest of the Weasley family. But also, aren't they just awesome characters? We'll go into them more later because this isn't the time. We don't really get a focus on them. But I love Fred and George. What a cool little dynamic to add in a book with just a balance of whimsical, fun childhood themes, but then like dark undertones. It's nice to have a pair like the Weasleys who can, you know, make different situations lighthearted. Harry meets Ron Weasley. who we know is going to become one of his best friends. And like I said in last week's video, I'm really going to try to appreciate Ron and who he is, because I think he's a very complex character and just a good best friend for Harry to have. Like, he's not perfect, and that's good and realistic. And I just need to cut him some slack, and I'm going to do that, okay? Like, I'm going to appreciate Ron. Let's appreciate Ron. But yeah, it's super cool reading this first conversation between Harry and Ron, because to me, this interaction is like kindergarten. I mean, I know they're 11, but the way they bond and how they're from just such different backgrounds, but have things that they can cling to and talk about, and they're on this shared experience that's taking them to a new adventure. It's so sweet. And you really get an insight to Ron in this first meeting. He is a kid who is so full of insecurities, the second youngest child, eager to live up to his family and the brothers who have come before him, and he's young and scared. And in a way, I think that's the biggest thing that he and Harry can connect through at this point. You know, Ron wants to live up to his family's wishes, and Harry has this desire to live up to the wishes or expectations that everyone has of him. They're both going into similar situations on different scales where they want to prove themselves. And I think that's something that really connects them in this first journey and helps them to hit it off. And I want to take a second to talk about Harry's compassion. This is a theme that's going to come back in many videos, so just get ready. I think Harry's compassion is his biggest strength. And like, Ron and Hermione have compassion too. Like, don't get me wrong. Harry's friends with a lot of people who just have very kind hearts. But there's something about the way Harry can interact with people. And you see this later on. I don't want to like tell you because it's my favorite scene in the series at this point. That might change. But just in moments of hardship and darkness, Harry tends to turn toward compassion for others. And we see it in this first moment when he's scared going to Hogwarts. He does it with Ron as they talk for the first time. On page 100 in my book, Ron is talking about how he's embarrassed having to live in poverty. I mean, he doesn't straight up say that, but he talks about having scabbers and how they couldn't afford getting him an owl, and his ears go pink. That's Ron's trademark sign of embarrassment. About, like his family not having a lot of money, which is a very adult thing for children to read about. And Harry's response, I think that you can look at this response here and just see who Harry is through the rest of the series. This just really defines him. I'll read it for you. I'll start with Ron being embarrassed, okay? Ron's ears went pink. He seemed to think he'd said too much because he went back to staring out of the window. Harry didn't think there was anything wrong with not being able to afford an owl. After all, he'd never had any money in his life until a month ago, and he told Ron so, all about having to wear Dudley's old clothes and never getting proper birthday presents. This seemed to cheer Ron up. So yeah, it's a simple moment, but it's something that just really comes back as we watch Harry grow up to where he is able to sympathize with people and just show them kindness and compassion and do what he can to make them feel better. It's my favorite part of Harry's personality, and I think it just really makes him who he is. So there you have it. Harry and Ron continue talking. We get introduced to wizard candy. We have Bertie Bott's flavored beans, Drupal's best blowing gum, chocolate frogs, pumpkin pasties, cauldron cakes, licorice wines. One of my favorite things of the Harry Potter books is reading about the different food that they have. Not just because the food is British, so there's some things I had never heard of when reading the Harry Potter books, but just reading about all the magical things they get to eat. Some of them are kind of weird. And I remember as a kid getting Bertie Bott's every flavor beans online and trying the gross flavors like pepper and vomit flavor, which, in case you didn't know, I cut open one of those vomit flavored Bertie Bott's every flavor beans, and there's Parmesan cheese in there, I think that's what it is. So the more you know. Okay, and like we've said, Harry gets introduced to so many important characters in this chapter. And even though he doesn't actually meet him yet, we do learn a little bit about Albus Dumbledore, who's going to have a profound impact on Harry's life. We see him on a chocolate frog card where the guy's just walking around. See Harry's surprise there. We also meet Neville, Scabbers, Peter Pettigrew. I'm sorry, I can't call him Scabbers. From now on, he will be Peter Pettigrew because I'm still getting over the shock of that. But then we get to meet Hermione, and goodness, she's intimidating. Reading this scene again, I couldn't help but laugh because she just talks so fast, and the way J.K. Rowling writes that is literally just like, there's no periods or ending punctuation or anything like that. Hermione is just, wow. And especially for people who are just going to Hogwarts, Harry, we know, is kind of scared about the new experiences he's gonna have. This would just be like overload. And you know, looking forward, I love how the trio of friends is just, they're so different from each other personality wise. You know, you've got Ron, who stands out so much. He's funny, he makes jokes, he gets upset, you know, he's emotional. And then Hermione, who's so smart, and you see such a growth from Hermione. This is where I wanted to bring back some of the things we discussed for her wand, because her wand wood is vine, which means that she surprises people, even those who know her best. And that is just so fitting of Hermione, because she does change a lot over the book series and is just such a strong character who's fierce and smart, but then like she'll break the rules too. She's a little bit of everything. But at the end of this scene, I couldn't help but laugh at Ron saying, whatever house I'm in, I hope she's not in it, because, well, you know, they get married. And it's just cool seeing their relationship and Harry's with both of them grow throughout the books. I love this first book because it's all about beginnings, and we know what's going to happen in the end. And so I'm just excited to see how everything changes as we move forward. One of the last people we meet, or meet again, is Malfoy, along with Crabbe and Goyle, his little cronies. Love that word. Now, we've technically already met him. Harry met him in Diagon Alley, but we haven't talked about him yet. And I've done a lot of research on Malfoy's family the past couple of days. And y'all, it's pretty interesting. As far as his family history, Malfoy literally translates to bad faith in French, which is just so fitting for the entire Malfoy family. And you should go read the article about the Malfoy family under J.K. Rowling's writings on Wizarding World. She talks about like different, not famous people, but significant people in the family history, and just how they mess around with Muggles and are always basically doing what Lucius Malfoy does throughout the books, but for forever. Malfoy is coming from a long line of people who have done this. And something interesting about Draco Malfoy himself, what's interesting is that when Malfoy comes to meet Harry, he's actually kind of testing the waters, because some of the leftover Death Eaters throughout the years wondered if Harry Potter was going to grow up to be some dark wizard that would have rivaled Voldemort. You know, like, is he for the dark side of magic or not? And so that's what Malfoy's doing here. He wants to, in the good old Malfoy fashion, make relationships and make connections that can benefit him in the long run. And at this point, he doesn't know if Harry's going to be one of those. So, fun fact. Okay, and you find out immediately, and I think I've forgotten just how mean Malfoy is, but goodness, he is mean, and he's 11, for goodness sakes. He just is a cruel kid. He tells Ron that his family has too many kids than what they can afford. Like, what? Like, that's one of the meanest things you could say to someone. And Harry, thankfully, is decent, and he chooses decency. He's already been bonding with Ron and can see the kind of person he is. And Harry has a good intuition when it comes to reading people, I think. At least here he does. And it proves to be a good instinct because after Harry's rejection, Malfoy just says that if Harry isn't careful, he'll go the same way as his parents. Like, this kid, how mean, beyond mean. Malfoy is just, I mean, he's one I want to pay attention to because I do think that he does, well, see, look, I can't even say it. He changes throughout the books in some way. He's conflicted in the 6th book. That's what I want to focus on. But yeah, just a mean bully. And then we see Peter Pettigrew, aka Scabbers, bite Goyle. His finest moment, if I do say so myself. But yeah, and then chases off Malfoy, Crabbe, and Goyle. And Harry is left alone with Ron, where they talk a little bit more about Voldemort's side, Death Eaters, and the followers that were left behind. And Harry just learns a little bit more about that side of the wizarding world and what's going on there, or what people don't know. Then we get to the end of the chapter where Hagrid leads them to Hogwarts. They get in the boats. And can you imagine seeing Hogwarts in this way for the first time? I mean, I talked about it last week, but going to the wizarding world of Harry Potter and just seeing the castle was very overwhelming, especially growing up reading the books and just being so fascinated and in love with this world. It was fantastic. So to see it in this way, gliding across the lake, all lit up, and you're about to be sorted for the first time, well, for the only time, and you're about to be sorted, just so cool. We end with Hagrid knocking on the front door. Harry's about to enter Hogwarts for the first time. So here's the last couple of sentences from chapter 6. They walked up a flight of stone steps and crowded around the huge oak front door. Everyone here? You there, still got your toad? Hagrid raised a gigantic fist and knocked 3 times on the castle door. And Professor McGonagall is about to open it. And we're about to go into the sorting ceremony, which in itself is just so fun. This was a really, really fun chapter. I love seeing these characters for the first time, however briefly, and we'll just get to know them even more as the book series goes on. Okay, so yeah, they're about to be sorted. Look out for next week's article. I break down all 4 houses and sorting in general, and I had so much fun writing that article. We literally go through each house. I talk about the traits based on the Sorting Hat song, different famous people we know from each house, cool info, and my thoughts on it. It's full of information. So if you haven't yet, go ahead and take the sorting ceremony test on wizardingworld.com. Get your house, and then you can read next week's article with your house in mind. And I have to go ahead and say, Slytherins. Okay, I really like Slytherin, I promise. I think good people can come out of it, but it's just hard to do Slytherin's justice because the research for it, there's just a lot of bad that comes out of it, and I feel like I'm a little biased because I'm scared. I'm scared of Slytherins sometimes, but that's why we are going to have a guest speaker, hopefully next week, a real life Slytherin coming to defend his house. It's my husband, Bishop. He is going to be making a guest appearance on the show and talk about and defend Slytherin for us, because I really felt like I wasn't doing it justice. So I asked him if he could come and talk about it for us from a Slytherin's perspective. So you don't want to miss that. Make sure to tune in next week. We'll be talking about the different Hogwarts houses in this video as well, because it's fun, and who doesn't like to talk about Hogwarts houses? So yeah, excited for that. So with that, don't forget to read the article for this week. Follow me on social media, like this video, and subscribe to my YouTube channel if you enjoy tuning in with us every week. And keep an eye out for fun stuff coming in the future, because we'll have challenges, we'll have fun questions, different things that I might add into these videos, which will be really fun. So yeah, thank you for joining us today. I love this. Don't forget to comment for a chance at the comment spotlight, which I'll highlight every week. And I'll see you next time on Muggles and Mocha. Be sure to read Chapter 7 and meet us back here, same time, same place.